Hi everyone, it's Katrina. There is a square on Mars and nobody knows how it got there. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The more we look at Mars, the more strange objects and unexplained phenomena we find. We also have reputable government officials blowing the whistle on UFOs, cover-ups, and more. Let me fill you in on what's going on, and then I would love to hear your thoughts. The Palace on Mars. The Martian wind usually carries only dust and silence. But on one fateful day, a robotic eye captured something else entirely. An anomaly. A single photograph that didn't just show a square, but shattered our perception of Mars, launching 1,000 whispers into a roar. Could this dusty red world harbor the ruins of a lost civilization? I won't tiptoe around it. There is a photograph of what looks like a ruined palace on the surface of Mars floating around, like it doesn't change everything. It all began in 2001 with the Mars Global Surveyor and its Mars Orbiter camera. They were doing their usual flyby routine, snapping photos of Martian terrain like a cosmic paparazzo. One of those shots showed a curious squarish formation. It wasn't perfectly square, more like if a toddler tried to draw a Minecraft block. But it was square enough to get people buzzing. The image shows a region roughly 1.9 miles across. The gigantic square is so convincing that I've never seen a hype train leave the station this fast. Joe Rogan even got involved in his podcast. Elon Musk has talked about it online. Everyone wants to know what the square is. With all the attention this thing's gotten, it is still an unexplained mystery. The image is real and the structure seems like it's really there. But is it natural or artificial? Was it made by aliens or the Martian wind? Experts clarified that the image had been processed a bit, meaning enhanced for clarity, contrast, or maybe a little drama. Still, the basic shape is in the original photo. Everything you see is legit. Now you have some people yelling, "Nature doesn't do straight lines. This is definitely an artificial structure." Except that nature absolutely does mess with geometry sometimes. Ever seen the hexagonal columns of Giant's Causeway in Ireland? Or Saturn's polar hexagon? Nature's got angles, my friends. It doesn't typically build in straight lines, but nature can absolutely design a square box. Other experts try to attribute the Martian ruin to pareidolia, the human brain's party trick where it finds familiar patterns in random stuff. Like when you look at clouds and see a dog, or behold Jesus on a piece of toast. What do you think? Is it ancient ruins from a lost civilization or just a trick of the camera? What do you think of this whole situation? Could the ruin be real? And if it is, what are the implications? I mean, who built it? Where did they go? And where's the rest of their civilization? Aliens, the Air Force, and one NASA doctor's wild story. In the spring of 1992, under this scorching Florida sun, something strange sat at a hangar at Cape Canaveral. Not a shuttle, not a jet, but something smoother, whiter, and creepier. And if you believe Dr. Gregory Rogers, absolutely not from the neighbor's garage. Dr. Rogers was NASA's chief flight surgeon, an Air Force major, and a man whose job required him to know the difference between a spacecraft and a sci-fi prop. He's the kind of guy who, if he tells you he saw aliens, then he saw aliens, which is what makes this whole story so fascinating. According to Dr. Rogers, on that hot Florida day, in that hangar, he saw something that still makes him question reality. During what was supposed to be a routine inspection at Cape Canaveral, Dr. Rogers says he was invited by another Air Force major to review some internal surveillance footage. Harmless enough. That is, until the tape started rolling. On the screen was a 20-foot wide flying saucer, nearly 10 feet tall, topped with a shallow dome gleaming white. You're probably thinking it's an alien ship, right? Then would you be disappointed if I told you the UFO had a US Air Force logo slapped right on the side? This wasn't from Alpha Centauri, not even from Beta Centauri. This flying saucer was built by the United States military complex. Rogers described it as perfectly smooth, having no rivets, seams, or telltale signs of human engineering. It had no antennas, no wings, no propellers, basically none of the stuff that makes planes fly. A tube ran from the dome's top, possibly for fueling, and strange black rectangles marked the surface at strategic positions. In the video, men in hazmat suits and lab coats milled around the saucer, clearly taking it very seriously. That is, until a horn blared and they scattered like lab rats at a strobe party. Suddenly, Rogers said, a series of energy bursts like invisible fireworks or electromagnetic pulses lit up around the vehicle. It was unexplained energy dancing in the air. And then, casual as can be, the thing rose 3 feet into the air, hovered, spun clockwise, then counterclockwise like it was showing off. Rogers, stunned as you can well imagine, asked the major where this whatever it was came from. The major's reply was like some really bad dialogue from a B sci-fi flick. He crooked his thumb at the sky and said, "We got it from them." Anyone else getting the chills? Rogers said he kept this to himself for 15 years, not even telling his wife. He was sworn to secrecy. But more recently, when the government began slowly opening the lid on unidentified aerial phenomena, aka UFOs with a rebrand, Dr. Rogers couldn't sit on it anymore. His frustration boiled over, not just from what he saw, but from what he knew other high-level figures had experienced. He said that astronauts told him personally that they have seen non-human craft in close proximity to human spacecraft. Sometimes, these mystery vehicles flew after the astronauts in formation, like they were tailgating a spacewalk. According to Rogers, many astronauts are hesitant to go public for fear of being ridiculed or professionally blackballed. Because, let's face it, I saw aliens doesn't look great if you're a serious scientist. If I wasn't already clear earlier, let me reiterate how reliable of a witness Rogers is. His resume includes over 20 years with the U.S. Department of Defense, holding key roles at Cape Canaveral and extensive experience in aerospace medicine. The guy literally helped astronauts survive the rigors of spaceflight. If anyone's qualified to call out weird flying technology, it's him. Still, anyone can weave a tall tale. Maybe Rogers was telling the truth. Maybe he went crazy in his advanced age. But what's abundantly clear is that stories like Rogers are becoming more common. Between military whistleblowers, leaked footage, and government hearings on UAPs, the age of quietly ignoring flying saucers is over. Whether you believe in little green men or not, a growing list of credible people are asking tough questions. And now for a quick break because it's shout-out time! I want to give a big thank you to I Believe in Fairies and Stephanie Rivers for supporting this channel. Thanks so much for watching and spending time with me today. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this. Strange cosmic stones on Mars. High on the dusty ridges of Jezero Crater, NASA's Perseverance rover pushed through terrain so rugged it would eat your Land Rover for breakfast. It was another Martian day, another mile of exploration, until something completely unexpected stopped it cold. At the base of a mound nicknamed Mist Park, a splash of bright white defied everything we thought we knew about the red planet. Rocks so pale they looked like they'd fallen from another world. And trust me, that is a bigger deal than it sounds. If you've ever seen photos of the red planet, you know the aesthetic. It's all dark basalt and moody volcanic vibes. It's like someone cranked the sepia filter way up and never looked back. So when ghost white pebbles show up like a bunch of Swifties at a goth concert, it makes scientists sit up straighter. The white stones were spotted during Perseverance's steep climb around the crater rim, after 2 months of Martian mountaineering. At this point, the rover had already logged enough strange terrain to make a geologist's eyes water, from zebra-striped boulders at Freya Castle to psychedelic-colored rocks at Mount Washburn. But this new find? It was totally unexpected. The pebbles appeared to be bright, smooth, and scattered, almost like they'd been poured from the sky or dropped out of an alien's marble pouch. And while Earth has plenty of white rocks, chalk, quartz, marble, you don't trip over them on Mars, because Mars has a basaltic crust, and basalt is dark, brooding, and rarely in the mood for anything white. So where did these out-of-place rocks come from? They just don't fit the Martian aesthetic. They're totally the wrong vibe. Luckily, Perseverance is kitted out with enough instruments to make Batman jealous, and its team back home wasted no time trying to solve the mystery. Scientists used the rover's supercam to fire lasers at the pebbles and analyze their chemical makeup. And nothing. The pebbles were too small and too scattered to poke directly with the rover's robotic arm. It was like trying to pick up confetti with salad tongs. Still, the team's not giving up. They are on the lookout for larger chunks of the same white material, anything big enough to grab and examine up close. Until then, they are left piecing together a theory with laser data, camera shots, and a healthy dose of scientific imagination. One theory is that the white rocks are the leftovers of a harder, more resistant layer of material that eroded away, like the skeletons of ancient Martian geology. Another possible explanation is that the pebbles roll downhill from higher up, broken off from some exposed bedrock above Mist Park. Either way, something weird happened here. And weird on Mars often means interesting. Could these white stones be a clue that there is something buried beneath the surface that no one knows about? Could they be shattered pieces of some Martian emperor's marble statue? A secret billionaire city exposed. Apparently, the apocalypse comes with bunkers, but only if you are super duper rich. Rich with a capital billion. In the spirit of whistleblowers and secret deals, I'd like to expose how the incredibly wealthy are preparing for the end of times. I don't know if they're worried about an alien invasion, a supervolcano, a plague, or all-out nuclear war, but if the leaks are correct, they will be living through the apocalypse in style. According to Catherine Austin Fitz, a former Bush-era housing official, is your tax dollars hard at work digging bunkers for the elite to ride out the end of the world in style? Oh yes, my friends. You are footing the bill for these doomsday bunkers, which you won't be allowed into. Catherine Fitz dropped this bombshell on Tucker Carlson's podcast. Nonetheless, she claimed that the US government has blown trillions of dollars on a hidden underground empire. It's like paradise, but in real life. A Bond villain's lair mixed with Musk's Hyperloop. A weird government-funded underground network connected coast to coast. There are even some doomsday shelters supposedly underwater. Fitz described these bunkers as fully equipped cities with infrastructure, transportation networks, and energy systems that don't use traditional electricity, which could mean they are tapping into a source of free, unlimited energy from within the Earth that the rest of humanity isn't allowed to have. She estimated that 170 of these facilities exist. That's a lot of real estate for a country that can't even fix its potholes. But what about the proof? It's a big allegation, and Fitz has what some would consider tenuous evidence at best. She's backed up her claims with research by Mark Skidmore, an economist from Michigan State University. In 2017, Skidmore and a team of researchers reviewed financial records from the Department of Defense and Housing and Urban Development, uncovering a jaw-dropping $21 trillion in unauthorized adjustments between 1998 and 2015. To put that into perspective, it's enough money to send every American to college, buy every NBA team, and still have change left over to buy a small country. Twice. All that money gone with no appropriate records to say where it was spent. Catherine Fitz said it was spent on a massive underground network, bunkers in which the richest billionaires and the smartest tech nerds will hang out during the apocalypse, while the rest of us fight over cans of lentils and sips of puddle water. It's not the only claim Catherine made either. She also said there is a secret space program that nobody knows about, except for those in the know, of course. She said that the government has access to breakthrough energy that powers super-fast mystery aircraft that us plebes call UFOs, but in reality, the spaceships that people keep seeing are secret military vehicles far more advanced than any fighter jet or modern bomber. So we've got government doomsday cities underground and under the ocean, we've got spaceships that the government is lying about, and we've got an imminent apocalypse. But don't worry, just go about your day like this is all perfectly normal. Grab a coffee, have a slice of cake, and try not to freak out. Do you think there's any truth to Catherine's claims? Let me know in the comments. Did NASA find heaven? Somewhere between the Carina Nebula and a grocery store tabloid from the 1990s, a tale was born. A tale so wild it could only thrive in the lawless frontiers of the internet. Someone has just claimed that NASA found heaven. White robes, clouds, pearly gates, the works. Where? In outer space, of course, with the Hubble Space Telescope. Totally believable, right? But before you go packing your bags for the afterlife via rocket ship, I'd like to unpack this viral slice of space-fueled fiction. If heaven is in space, the Vatican is going to have a lot of explaining to do. The story kicks off in 1994, a year when baggy jeans reigned supreme and the internet sounded like a fax machine. That's when an image began circulating, supposedly taken by Hubble, showing what was dubbed the City of God in deep space. This wasn't just a casual celestial mention. According to the Weekly World News, a publication best known for uncovering half-human, half-bat creatures and aliens disguised as your uncle, the image proved that NASA had snapped a shot of paradise. Let's pause. Have you ever read the Weekly World News? It's like The Onion, if The Onion didn't know it was satire. These are the same folks who once claimed that Elvis faked his death to become a government agent, and now they were suggesting the Hubble telescope found heaven. Fast forward to the 2020s, a video started making the rounds claiming that NASA confirmed this divine discovery in 1994. The claim was based on intel from someone's uncle who worked at NASA. Oh great, the old uncle at NASA line. The same uncle who has clearance levels higher than God and shares top-secret files every year at the family barbecue. The video's narrator breathlessly described how Hubble took a photo of a celestial city and the government covered it up to avoid mass panic. That's the info that's been floating around social media and TikTok. As for the actual science, it's not quite as divine. The Hubble Space Telescope launched in 1990 with some problems. NASA realized its main mirror was flawed, producing blurry images. In December 1993, astronauts flew up, installed corrective optics, and voila! Hubble was back in business with some of the sharpest views of the universe humanity had ever seen. But none of those views included glowing heaven mansions in space. In fact, the image used in the City of God hoax isn't even from Hubble. It's laughably fake. The supposed heavenly architecture is monochrome. The light spikes shooting out of it are totally wrong. Hubble's diffraction spikes, the little flares around stars caused by its structure, always appear in neat cross-like shapes. This image looks like someone dropped a glitter bomb in Photoshop and yelled, "That's heaven!" And then there's Dr. Martian, the so-called researcher quoted in the original story. Here's the thing about Dr. Masson. No one can find any record of her in scientific literature. Not in astronomy, not in astrophysics, not even in Facebook's friend suggestions. Sorry to disappoint, but it seems there is no celestial city floating through space. Just a whole lot of misinterpreted images, bad science fiction, and nostalgia for a time when space exploration seemed more magical than mathematical. But here's the good news. The real universe is already mind-blowing. Scientists have found planets with diamond rain, black holes that hum like bass notes, and galaxies older than Earth itself. That's not heaven per se, but it's still pretty epic. The 1952 UFO Coverup. All that stuff I told you about the government's secret space program, I have a hunch it may have started in 1953 with the cover-up of an alien vehicle that crashed in Arizona. Maybe it kicked off in 47 with the Roswell incident, but this was the big one. It was a blisteringly hot May east of Kingman, Arizona, just off the neon-stained ribbon of Route 66. Something not from around here slammed into the Earth like a dinosaur-killing asteroid. According to leaked documents and a growing number of UFO researchers, it was a flying saucer. And the US government was all over it faster than your ants all over those pancakes at the all-you-can-eat breakfast. The event, known in UFO circles today as the Kingman crash, has hovered under the public's radar for decades. It never reached the pop culture infamy of Roswell, but still, UFO investigator Preston Dennett, who has been chasing saucers since the mid-80s, says this is in the top 5 most important alien crashes. Why? Because the story involves multiple sources, leaked documents, and one very mysterious man who rode a blackout bus into the middle of the desert. Let's talk about Arthur Stansel, an Air Force engineer whose specialty was studying how nuclear blasts affected buildings. Back in '53, Stansel, then using the pseudonym Fritz Werner, was reportedly one of 40 people bussed into the crash site. He was on a bus with completely blacked out windows. Classic, you didn't see anything protocol. According to the redacted government documents and later an affidavit signed by Stancil himself, the team arrived to find a metallic UFO. It was 14 feet tall, 30 feet wide, and embedded 20 inches into the Arizona soil. Stancil's job was to figure out how fast it came down based on the damage to the Earth. He ran some calculations and determined it hit the ground at 1,200 miles per hour. That's not a fender bender, that is cosmic speed ticket territory. And guess what else was found along with the UFO? That's right, the pilot. Beside the craft lay a body, roughly 4 feet tall, wearing a silver metallic suit and very much not from around here. It was clearly an alien pilot wearing some sort of intergalactic flight suit. The workers examined the crash and were promptly sworn to secrecy by an Air Force colonel. Stancil kept his mouth shut until 20 years later, when he signed a sworn statement confirming everything I just told you. Stancil couldn't keep the truth to himself anymore. If you knew the government had alien bodies and alien vehicles, could you keep quiet, or would you spill the beans? Chinese scientists build a Death Star. Well, friends, true believers, beloved fans, there's no easy way to say this. China has built a Death Star and will soon take over the galaxy. At least they're on the path to galactic takeover. In a 2024 test, Chinese scientists successfully fired 7 separate microwave beams that converged into one giant super beam. It was sort of like the beam from the Death Star, only instead of blowing up planets, China's mega beam was built to scramble satellites like overcooked eggs. Let's get something straight. This isn't a giant floating orb of doom, but the similarities are too good to ignore. In the original 1977 Star Wars, the Death Star used 8 beams merging into one to vaporize a planet. China just used 7 devices, precisely aligned to within millimeters, to fire 7 microwave beams that met midair with picosecond level timing. That's 1/1,000,000th of a second. They met, merged, and became one huge monster beam of death. Most of us can't sync Bluetooth headphones properly, but here's China syncing beams across 1,100 miles, using fiber optic cables and turning those beams into a satellite scrambling superweapon. What's even the point? Have you ever heard the saying, if World War III is fought with nukes, World War IV will be fought with bows and arrows? That's kind of what we're dealing with here. The new superweapon can potentially fry electronics in orbit. Think GPS satellites, communication systems, and spy equipment. No explosions, no debris. One huge beam of energy and any electronics caught in its crosshairs are destroyed. These mega beams could be the weapons of the future. They could theoretically destroy satellites or destroy whole electric grids from space. China's motivation behind pioneering the technology isn't exactly a mystery either. China's been nervous about the US dominating space for decades, and they've dabbled in anti-satellite missiles since the 1990s. But those things are expensive and messy, turning satellites into debris fields that the planet doesn't need stuck in orbit. Microwave weapons are cleaner and sneakier. One beam of invisible doom could turn a precision-guided satellite into floating junk with zero warning, rendering missiles useless. And there's even more on the horizon. Reports suggest that China has already tested gigawatt-class superweapons. Weapons capable of destroying satellites like a sharpshooter pinging those metal ducklings at the carnival. Could we live to see a future where wars are fought with lasers, microwaves, and satellites? Is anyone else getting nervous? Another Martian enigma. NASA's Curiosity rover just clocked in for another shift on Mars. What it found this time is a mystery for the history books. Curiosity sent back photos of what looks like a giant metallic disc half buried in a Martian hillside. Is it a UFO? A hatch leading down to a secret base? Or maybe nothing but a Martian frisbee? The anomaly was spotted in a photo snapped by Curiosity's mast cam on April 30th, 2025. Or, if you're tracking Martian time like a pro, Sol 4526. Researcher Gene Ward took a deep dive into the images and, like any good internet detective, gave them a digital glow-up. He stripped away NASA's gritty grid overlay, tweaked the contrast, and zoomed in closer than a nosy neighbor with binoculars. What he found is a smooth, curved, disc-shaped object tucked into the hillside like Winnie the Pooh stuck in a hole. The area around the object is all jagged rock and dusty chaos. But this thing is polished, precise, and smooth. Cool, right? But what the heck do you think it is? There are the usual suspects, some of which I already mentioned. But I'll add the possibility of it being an ancient alien ruin, part of a giant Martian complex, or a crashed probe from another interstellar visitor. NASA joined the party by dropping the raw, unedited images on their site, almost to tease the conspiracy theorists. If you've ever wanted to dust off your detective hat, grab a cup of joe, and yell "Enhance" at your laptop, now's your time to shine. Go ahead and check out NASA's unedited images when you get a chance. Just don't come back and yell at me when you find yourself spiraling into a conspiracy rabbit hole. Mars does that to people, myself included. Files from Reagan's library prove first contact. Guys, it turns out the truth might not be out there like the X-Files tried to tell us. The truth might be in a filing cabinet in the presidential library. Of course, the one place we didn't check. All right, this isn't your run-of-the-mill little green men story. This is secret desert meetings with aliens, rogue government groups running cosmic black ops, and a covert interstellar text message written in binary code that kicked off first alien contact. And where did all this glorious information come from? Not a tinfoil hat subreddit, but declassified documents unearthed from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. Hidden in over 50 pages of once classified CIA files, documents the FBI swears are fake, lies an explosive claim. The US government made direct contact with an alien race in 1959 and refuses to talk about it. 1959, eh? Could the aliens have come looking for their buddy who crashed in Arizona in '53? According to the declassified documents, alien contact was made via Project Sigma, a secret operation launched in 1954, the year after the Arizona incident. Project Sigma tried sending binary-coded radio messages into space, which you have to admit is pretty impressive, seeing as the internet didn't even exist yet. Why use binary code? Because binary is the universal language of computers. If there are aliens sophisticated enough to be flying around in spaceships, they can probably understand binary a lot easier than English. Once the binary message was sent, it was only a matter of time before something answered back. Let's creep ahead a few years to April of 1964, the 25th to be exact. A lone U.S. Air Force intelligence officer met two aliens at a top-secret, pre-arranged location in the New Mexico desert. The encounter lasted 3 hours. No shootouts, no probes, just good old-fashioned small talk about our species, their species, and questions about why we keep making movies about them invading us. The aliens were reportedly polite, chill, and fully prepared to exchange basic information about their civilization. As for what specifics were given by the aliens in relation to technology, it's not clear. The transcript of the meeting isn't available. And don't even ask me how the aliens communicated, because I don't know if it was in ones and zeros or some language recognition implant. I mean, we're getting close to that ourselves. Now, I have to introduce you to the people, presumably their people, behind this covert meeting of worlds. Enter the shadowy puppet masters of this whole saga, Majestic 12, or MJ-12 for short. They're a group so secretive, they make the Illuminati look like a local book club. Formed by President Harry Truman in 1947, right after the Roswell crash, MJ-12 allegedly consisted of 12 of the most powerful minds in the military, science, and intelligence sectors. These were the elite of the elite. Can you guess their job? Investigate UFOs, communicate with aliens, recover downed spacecraft, and reverse engineer alien tech like cosmic chop shop mechanics. These guys were so secretive and given such power that they reportedly withheld information from the White House. They didn't answer to the president. According to the files, the 1964 meeting with aliens wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. In 1972, MJ-12 allegedly kicked off Project Snowbird, a classified mission to test fly a recovered alien spacecraft at a secret base in Nevada. Why am I beating around the bush? It was Area 51. It's always Area 51. The US has apparently stockpiled their reverse-engineered alien ships. UFO researcher Dr. Hal Puthoff recently told Joe Rogan that insiders say the US government has at least 10 alien craft in storage. Scientists are over here working on alien spaceships like it's a government-run episode of Pimp My Ride, Extraterrestrial Edition, and they won't tell us the truth until it's absolutely necessary. But why not? I mean, come on, it's 2025 and people can handle aliens. We've got an American Pope, for crying out loud. Just tell us about the aliens. The FBI says this is all nonsense, and the CIA says aliens are bogus. But a growing number of whistleblowers, researchers, and leaked presidential library documents say otherwise. Even though they've denied the existence of extraterrestrials, the CIA has been caught talking about aliens in their internal memos. According to a 1953 CIA memo, the government feared that UFO talk might, and I quote, result in a threat to the orderly functioning of the protective organs of the body politic. In normal, non-1950s lingo, that means if the public finds out, they'll freak out. Shut it down. Shut it down now. And so, this same secretive, sneaky mentality persists today in all branches of the government. The higher-ups love their secrets, and they aren't going to give them up under the guise that it will cause mass panic. But I don't think it would, do you? I think we're all ready to see these flying saucers. The truth may still be up for debate, but thanks to these newly revealed documents, we've either got the most elaborate sci-fi fanfiction ever written, or the US government's been hiding a galactic Rolodex since the 50s.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed.
A tiny black hole. If you ever wonder just how dangerous a black hole is, prepare to be blown away. Astronomers say that a black hole of just 1 millimeter could completely destroy our entire planet chunk by chunk. As you may know already, black holes are some of the most dangerous things in the universe. A small black hole has roughly the same mass as 6 of our suns. But even one the size of your fingernail has the strength to rip apart a planet. How incredible is that? Hossam Ali, an astrophysicist from the University of Leicester, says a black hole of 1 millimeter still has about 10% the mass of the Earth. And because its gravitational pull would be so intense, it would tear apart a third of the planet. It would do it pretty quickly, too, at somewhere around 6 miles per second. The reason a tiny black hole is so destructive is that its gravity is stronger than Earth's own gravity. If it appeared on the surface of the planet, all the nearby matter would bend to the gravity of the black hole instead of the Earth. The entire planet, all life as we know it, would be eradicated in just a handful of seconds. The singularity at the center of the black hole, a single point where gravity is infinite and space and time curve, would swallow everything that we have ever known. Pretty crazy, right? The impossible white hole. Everybody knows about black holes, but almost nobody talks about white holes. A black hole has such immense gravity that it sucks in light, radiation, and anything else that gets close to it. But a white hole is the opposite of a black hole, meaning that it pushes everything away. If you were to fall into a black hole, you would be falling for eternity as time and space stretched all around you. But you would never get to the center of a white hole because all the energy erupting from its center would disintegrate you before you got anywhere close to it. The good news is that according to astrophysicists and astronomers, white holes are pretty impossible. A white hole would have to generate energy seemingly from nothing, which isn't how energy works. Plus, a white hole has never been observed. But what's interesting is that some scientists believe the Big Bang that created the universe was the only white hole in history. It may have spat out time, space, matter, and everything else that formed our universe in a split second. It's just that scientists have never been able to prove the theory. For now, white holes are just a mathematical myth. Ancient galaxies. Astronomers have found 2 previously undetected galaxies about 29 billion light-years away from us. They've named the galaxies Rebels 12-2 and Rebels 29-2. It took the light from the galaxies 13 billion years to reach us, meaning that they must have formed immediately after the Big Bang. The reason they are so far away is that the continuous expansion of the universe places them at over twice the distance from where they started.
The galaxies were spotted by astronomers in Chile using the highly sensitive ALMA radio telescope. And believe it or not, it was a total accident. They were using the telescope to look through thick layers of cosmic dust when they noticed light emitted from the two galaxies. Researcher Pascal Oesch says the galaxies were probably some of the very first ones created, and this is important because he also says that the earliest galaxies formed out of the Big Bang created the building blocks for all the other galaxies that came after. And because the universe is still expanding like a limitless balloon, the galaxies have gone from being 13 billion to 29 billion light years away from us. If this makes your brain hurt, you're not the only one. Even though it may feel like we're sitting still, the universe around us is still ballooning and growing, and everything is getting farther apart. Scientists don't believe the universe will ever stop growing. How our bones are forged. A shocking new discovery in space has revealed just how connected we are to the universe. An element called fluoride, which is found in our bones and in our teeth, was discovered inside the gas clouds of a galaxy 12 billion light years away from us. The galaxy is called NGP 190387. Catchy, right? It's the most distant detection of this particular element in any galaxy to date, made by the new Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array. If fluoride sounds familiar, that's because we use it every day in the form of fluorine. It's in toothpaste, they give it to you at the dentist, and it's hiding deep inside your bones. But what you probably never stop to consider is that the elements that you use to brush your teeth were created inside of a star. A lot of elements in our everyday life are created inside stars. But scientists are still trying to figure out how a lot of these elements are produced, and by which types of stars. So here's the deal with galaxy NGP 190387. We are seeing what the galaxy looked like when it was 1.4 billion years old. That's only 10% of its current age, because that just so happens to be how long it took its light to reach our planet. Astronomers are now saying that because stars blow apart the elements that form everything around us inside their cores near the end of their lives, stars that create fluorine probably live and die quite quickly. The team that made the discovery now says that Wolf-Rayet stars, giant celestial objects that live only for a few million years, are probably where fluoride comes from. When the star dies, it blows these elements out into the universe, and over billions of years, they end up being used to build our literal bones. To put it simply, Carl Sagan was right. We are all made up of star stuff. 20 billion potential homes. Professor Brian Cox says there are at least 20 billion potential planets out in the universe where life could be thriving. If you've ever wondered about life out in the stars, beyond where we can see, this is the big reveal. Scientists have been struggling for decades to answer the one question: is life on a planet a common process? Or are the set of circumstances on Earth that led to the development of life so complicated that it's not found anywhere else? It's a profound question with seriously profound consequences. Brian Cox says that there is definitely life in the universe. He says that the laws of physics and chemistry dictate that life must be thriving on other planets. Because the laws of nature are universal, and because the only real requirement for life is liquid water, there is definitely a lot of life out there. In fact, the Hubble telescope has already identified several planets with faint signatures of water vapor. One of the closest is K2-18b, only 124 light years away from us. And that's only one out of over 20 billion. This means that according to astronomers, there is almost definitely life living on other planets. The big difference is that we're probably not dealing with little green men. We're probably talking about anything from microscopic worms and organisms to marine creatures like fish. What do you think life on another planet could look like? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The fastest orbit. In our solar system, Mercury orbits the Sun faster than anyone else. It moves at a blistering speed of 29 miles a second. Its average distance from the star is 36 million miles. In fact, Mercury is so fast that it got its name from the Roman god with wings on his feet. But Mercury isn't the quickest in the universe. It orbits the Sun every 88 days, significantly less than our 365 days. If you've ever wondered how fast a planet can orbit the sun without exploding, listen to this. Astronomers recently discovered a remote solar system 855 light-years away from us with a planet that orbits its main star in just 16 hours. It's the shortest orbit ever measured. This planet also happens to be one of the most exotic ever found, considering how close it is to the giant ball of fire at the center of its solar system. The planet is called TOI 2109b, but astronomers simply call it ultra-hot Jupiter. The surface temperature of the planet is on average around 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit, but during the planet's daytime, temperatures can get even hotter at about 5,840 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about the same heat as some small stars generate. Trying to walk on the surface of this planet would literally be like trying to walk on the surface of the sun. The oldest quasar. It's time to talk about quasars. Quasars are by definition some of the most distant, some of the largest, and some of the brightest objects anywhere in the universe. A quasar makes up the core of a galaxy in which a supermassive black hole spins rapidly to eat all the matter that cannot escape its gravitational pull. But while this black hole is eating everything it can, it is also spitting out a huge amount of radiation. All that radiation becomes about 1 trillion times brighter than the brightest star. The phenomenon is called a quasar. These are the brightest things in the universe. According to astronomer Chiara Mazzucchelli, because quasars are so luminous, they can be seen from very far away. Astronomers have managed to discover the most distant quasar and the farthest ancient source of light ever. The quasar is 13 billion light-years away from us, still spewing out light and particles of radiation at ridiculous speeds. It's also ancient, formed only 780 million years after the Big Bang. That point in the life of our universe is what astronomers call the epoch of reionization, when the universe was extremely dark. It was almost like a dark age out in space because nothing had existed for very long. All the sources of light that take billions of years to reach our planet, well, they didn't even exist yet. This meant that space was extremely black. If the Earth had existed back then and you had stood on a mountain and looked at the stars, you wouldn't have seen anything but darkness. Gravity eventually collapsed gases into stars and quasars, heat ionized gas, and light beamed out into the universe. This newly discovered quasar, 13 billion years from us, was one of the first to ever become an intergalactic lighthouse, contaminating the Earth. Scientists have warned us of a very strange new threat. As it turns out, spaceships could accidentally bring alien organisms to the surface of our planet, which could contaminate it and kill all life. It's an apocalypse-level scenario that's highly unlikely, but still possible. Think about it as similar to when the Europeans arrived in North America for the first time and accidentally brought diseases to the native people that their immune systems were unprepared for. Because these organisms existed in Europe but not North America, it caused widespread devastation. The same thing could happen to our planet if a mysterious alien organism that we don't know about hitches a ride on a spacecraft and is introduced to something like an ocean. It's not necessarily going to happen, but if you've ever wondered how the world might end, this is one of those ways. Professor Anthony Ricciardi from the McGill University, Montreal, recently told Live Science that biological contamination is possible. And because the most plausible form of life outside our planet is microbial, it would basically be undetected when it came back into our atmosphere. The nuclear moon. NASA wants to install a nuclear power plant on the moon. If you've ever wondered why we haven't started building installations on the moon yet, it's not for a lack of desire to do it. The proposed nuclear power plant would begin construction by 2030. NASA says that having a nuclear power plant on the moon would help sustain future moon missions, as well as missions to Mars and to the outskirts of our solar system. But no work on the project has actually started yet. NASA is still looking for partners to help them build their power plant. They say the reactor can only weigh up to 13,200 pounds. It must fit into one of their rockets, and it must provide at least 40 kilowatts of continuous electric power for the next decade. And naturally, it must be designed with moon temperatures in mind. While the moon may look cold from where we are, it can actually get blistering hot. During the day on the moon, the temperature can reach 260 degrees Fahrenheit. That's enough to kill a person instantly. And here, I'm going to answer another question for you. If you've ever sat up at night wondering when exactly humans will live permanently on the moon, it's probably going to be pretty soon. NASA is working on their nuclear reactor at the same time as they initiate their Artemis program. This program wants to have a sustainable human population on the moon by 2030. Unknown rocks. Astronomers have discovered some rocks, but these aren't just any ordinary rocks. They are pieces of space junk made up by minerals that scientists have never seen before. In a shocking new study, astronomers looked at 23 white dwarfs. White dwarfs are basically dying stars. What the researchers found was that as these stars died, they ripped apart all the exoplanets orbiting them. The cosmic dust now swirling around the white dwarfs contains rocks from the worlds that were destroyed. But researchers were surprised when they found many of the rocks and elements are unknown. But unfortunately, the bizarre new discovery has created more questions than answers. Scientists like to act like they know everything going on out in space, but that's very far from the truth. These rocks turned out to be so different from those known to scientists, from the rocks that make up the planets in our solar system, that they had to give them completely new names. Astronomer C.E. Chu with the National Optical Infrared Astronomy Research Laboratory in Arizona says the rocks are 100% exotic and that there are no counterparts to them in our solar system. What this really means is that even though astronomers have figured out a lot about our universe, there is still a significant amount out there that they just can't even fathom. Thanks for watching! What's your favorite bizarre fact about space? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe and come back soon for more amazing videos. See you later. Bye!